Spirit. This is Mark Heilsman. Once again, I am a pastor and a theologian, and I am really happy to be here with you because we are getting into the subject that you can find in the fifth chapter of Galatians, on verse 22, called the fruits of the Spirit. And then there are many fruits of the Spirit. There are 8 of them. And what we're going to be talking about today is the Spirit, or the fruit of joy. Joy. And don't worry, this is not Christmas time, but joy is joy is one of those times, or one of those subjects that you'll find quite prolifically mentioned in just about every spiritual tradition that you can find. And joy, quite simply, is feeling good cheer and a vibrant sense of happiness. It is a spiritual meaning of expressing God's goodness and a deep-rooted and inspired happiness. Now, I have experienced joy in a variety of ways. I have 3 children. Every time I had a child, or my wife had a child, um, I experienced the joy of birth, and bringing a creation into this world cannot be matched by anything like that. I even though I'm divorced from Catherine, I will always treasure the joy of her bringing 3 of our children into the world. It was just a tremendous experience to watch and to be part of. And the miraculous nature of the human body and what it can create is beyond my understanding and comprehension, and can only speak to the presence of the Holy Spirit and God in our lives. It's just a miraculous thing. And I have a pretty good understanding of the human body and the anatomy, given that I'm a licensed massage therapist, and I'm still awed at the fact that out of the primordial, yeah, that ooze, um, we are cells that combine and develop and create human life. It's just a joyful thing to behold. There's another, there's other different kinds of joy. And I have this memory of one time skiing out west in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. And my brother and I got up early one morning, went out, and about 3 feet of snow fell on the mountain. And we were skiing down this un, untamed landscape of snow, and we just laughed all the way down. It was absolute joy, absolute bliss. I still remember what it was like to just laugh my way through that experience, slaloming all the way down that mountain and that pass, recognizing we were the first ones to touch that fallen snow was an absolute joy to behold. I have felt joy watching a sports event where a team comes back from being down, and I'm a proverbial Met and Jet fan. That puts me into the hole of depression most seasons. But when they're winning and when they're doing some great things, it's a wonderful thing. It's a joyful thing to watch teams excel. I too was a football player and lacrosse player and tennis player and golfer and all these things. And I love hiking mountains, and there's joy in hiking a mountain and sweating it out, and getting to the top, and really seeing the outcome of many steps to get there, miles into a trail. Joyful, joyful, joyful. But when it comes to spiritual joy, I think the uh, the feeling that I have, of being able to recognize that God is with me in tender moments, and moments of understanding, and moments where I'm able to connect with people and help them find some sense of themselves that's been lost for a while. It's a joyful thing. I preached for many, many, many years, and when you, but for the grace of God, had a sermon that worked really well for people, and they experienced understanding and bliss, and an identification with words and or illustrations or stories that were told. That is a joyful thing. The most recent um, experience I had that brings set of joy to me was I was watching movie City of Joy, um, and City of Joy was done many years ago, and the lead actor was Patrick Swayze, who unfortunately is not with us anymore. And it's the story of a young doctor who was traumatized by a variety of things, but he goes to India to really kind of check out, and he ends up being in the slums of India, and he loses all of his money. He gets robbed and he's getting beaten, and he ends up finding himself in a clinic where he serves as a doctor. And in that experience, because he's basically been abandoned there, he's lost his passport. He's got to stick around. He's kind of lost without hope. So he utilizes his gifts and his skills in a way that he's never been asked to before, and he drops his arrogance, and he drops his self righteousness and his sense of entitlement. I mean, everything gets stripped from him that he used to be able to hold dear to himself, and that those were the things that kind of characterized and helped him identify with his personhood, who he thought he was. And all of those things got taken away from him, and he was left really in the slums, being kind of homeless. And he was taken in and by this very very marginal clinic, but with hardly any supplies, and he serves the poor, the poorest of the poor, the lepers, and the people who have basically nothing but are happy, just happy when it rains, you know, and they are thrilled at just the chance to be alive and to pray and the gratitude that they feel, even though they have, a sliver of what he used to have as a doctor in the United States. And it's a really wonderful, wonderful story that is exemplified by him in this movie. And highly recommend it to anybody who thinks their life is sad and miserable, because this really tells the tale of rags to riches, but in a much more profound moral way. And the values that Patrick Swayze identifies with and builds in his experience in India is far exceeds any dollar amount that he might have felt he was worth. Um, so that was a joyful film, and it's a joyful story as well as it's a hard story. It's a hard story. So I would invite you to think about what the fruit of the spirit means to you. Yesterday we talked about love. Today we're talking about joy. And I would maintain that joy is an essential part of any spiritual condition. Um, and I would recommend to anybody that if you're feeling low and you're feeling abandoned and you're feeling deserted, and lonely on this journey, especially during this COVID-19 experience, step back, find the gratitude, see all the things that are joyful in your life, and celebrate. Just celebrate and cherish what you have, because that spark of joy can lift your spirits and make you feel great, and allow you really to love those around you in a brand new way. So God is with us. God is there, helping us understand the meaning of that three-letter word, joy. And I would invite you to exercise it as often as you can, now and forevermore. Thanks very much. Have a great day.